Why? Hey, thank you for joining us for this week's Tipple's Wine of the Week virtual wine tasting. This is Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudre, the owners of Tipple's Brews Wine in Gainesville, Florida. Let's get into it because, dear Lord, it's been a long time coming, right?
Yeah, it's
So
a lot of technical issues. You ready for me to share?
yeah.
Okay, now, because you guys were already in the meeting, you're gonna see like the behind the scenes before I get sent mode, so you're just gonna have to like bear with us a moment. So, okay, hold on.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so this week we are drinking the Glenelly Estate Reserve Red Blend from Stellenbosch, South Africa. Ratings, Robert Parker 90, Wine Enthusiast 90 points, so they're putting it way up there. Food pairings for this guy are beef curry casserole, which is the South African name for that dish is bobati. The oxtail, eggplant, and porcini mushroom meatballs would also be delicious. And they just sound great no matter what you're doing, but frankly, so we got this guy going on. Let's go ahead, now that I've introduced it.
Okay, stop the
We'll
share.
jump over here. It's that time where we pour a glass. I've given mine a light chill in the refrigerator, no more than 30 minutes in the fridge to take it down to cellar temperatures. 60 degrees-ish, 55, 60. I wouldn't want to go lower. It will warm up again in our Floridian homes as we drink, but that'll help it to, it'll open up and you'll taste it on two different sides. You get the flavors and aromas will change a little bit with that temperature change. Oh, yeah. It doesn't hold back.
This is a 2014.
2014.
Jeff likes to hide the bottle from me, like way across.
There you go. I'm going to be doing a whole label discussion in a moment.
I can't experience it like everyone else. It has to be a surprise for me.
Yes, we want
Okay.
genuine reactions.
Okay.
That's right. All right, so jumps right out of the glass. This guy is made up, it is, like I said, it is a red blend. 40% Cabernet Sauvignon, 19% Syrah, 18% Cab Franc, 18% Merlot, 5% Petit Verdot. All right. Alcohol content, 14.5%. So not really, it's not going to be very hot. It's not an over the top high alcohol wine, but right in the central zone, right in the middle.
You call it hot? Is that a real wine term?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
I
if
was going to
something,
ask Jeffism or,
no, boozy and hot are both
Okay.
the same term.
okay,
Mhm.
all right.
So stainless steel fermented and then aged 18 months in French oak. We're definitely going to, with all that time, have an oak effect, but it's French oak, so it's not going to be overly aggressive. So it should not turn into a vanilla bomb, right? It would be more that it will bring out the spices and herbs and manage the tannins to get them kind of under
Chris is
control.
very excited about the age of the wine.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Right, this is the current release. So here we have, they say, when they say reserve, they mean it.
Mhm. This is the current release.
This is the current release.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, we just brought these wines into the store.
Mhm.
So they just released them in the last year as they transported over to the US. So as far as I know, yeah, I know it had to be because I had to wait 3 months for this wine to come in.
Right. Jeff kept saying, oh yeah, you said the password was finally,
And the
right?
password is finally.
Oh, that just like transferred over to the whole thing
Oh, the whole
too.
thing,
Like
yeah,
we
right.
had to do it 3 times. Everyone's like, of
Right?
course,
Finally,
finally.
we're going to drink
yeah.
wine and listen to this stuff.
Oh, they were already drinking. They did not wait for
Yeah, well, I
us.
don't blame you. I need a drink because of just getting this thing going. So as we take it in, I'll cover age worthiness and then we'll talk a little bit about what we're smelling and tasting. Age worthy. I think you guys are all with me on this. Yes, right. It tells you right there. It's got the correct amount of alcohol where it can hang out, right? And, excuse me. Nice tannins.
Yeah.
It is not a flabby, fruity wine. There's an acid, there's body. There's a lot for this to do. So this guy can go 10 plus years
Mhm.
and sub $30 price point.
That's very nice.
Yeah, this is crazy as a bargain.
Mhm. We do have a couple of comments, and I don't know what the Children's Hospital in NOLA donations for. That's something different. Okay. All right. And then worth the wait.
Excellent.
And, oh, he said that was for Jerry. Okay. And then you can smell the fruit, but it has the right amount of bite. Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. It's got a nice combination on there where you've got, and even on the palate, a fruitiness, but it's incredibly well balanced with the tannin grip, the spicy bite.
Yeah.
You know, and that's that freshness. I wouldn't say there's so much of a tart fruit,
right? But
it is a fresh fruit.
Well, and that was Linda, and then you just said spicy. Rachel said she gets pepper and cherry.
Oh yeah, it's a spicy meatball, right? It's got a lot going on. Spicy, herby. So yeah, we will definitely get in. All right.
Linda says like plum skin.
Love it. Yeah, that is definitely one of the notes.
Yeah.
So I love this. Everyone jumping in on these things. I love when it's not just me talking about it. So I'll jump in with what I'm smelling.
Okay.
So nice dark fruit. So we're talking about black cherry. If we're going to go, I'll dust it into like fruit and then down the line, right?
Sure.
So black cherry, red plum, cedar, lavender and violet.
I hadn't thought of the cedar until you said it, but now
you got that. And then it's got a floral note, like a real purpley flower, lavender or violet kind of thing. And then a beautiful kind of a spice box of, with allspice and all kinds of baking spice on there. And maybe a little bit of like they call it an Asian spices. And it's more of like what you might get a little bit with, it doesn't have a meaty smell, which.
Are you saying like a peanutty?
No, more like, more like soy saucy, but not soy, not kind of thing.
I'm not getting that, but
no worries.
We have a couple things. Right. So it's evidently Paul's dad said, would nutty be off? Because Paul's dad said a little nutty.
All right. Well, I get like a toastiness. And so that would be where I would go, like a real, and that's from that light barrel, but so, because it's like, I didn't say vanilla. Right. So that would be an American oak.
Okay.
With that one, we get that spicy and a toastiness from the French oak, and that is completely on point. Yeah, I get that.
And then we've got, wouldn't have thought cedar, but definitely a spice. That's from Linda. Yeah. And then Brendan, Linda, 5 spice.
Yes, there you go. The 5 spice.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Are you reading the comments and just saying yes? And
no, the 5 spice I know. Okay. I don't know the other spice. So
hoisin? I don't know that spice.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Hoisin.
Hoisin.
All right.
Chris and Robin are saying that too.
Yeah, I don't know that one, but I know the 5 spice
because it's been mentioned previously.
Right.
And so, and then Chris and Robin spice cherry, something like out of an old fashioned.
Yeah, like almost like if you were to take like plums and cherries and do like a stewed spice dessert kind of thing, So
and Linda said like an old fashioned as well.
Oh, it is pretty. I'm sorry, it is.
Something you could drizzle over vanilla ice cream, if it was like nice and warm.
Yeah, and it's not overly fruity. I mean, we've got a lot of balance.
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten to, it has a balance. So the base gets into a really nice, there's an herbiness too on there, because it doesn't just stay flying high with fruit and spice, like the baking spice. Those would be all kind of, I think of them as high flavors rather than, something's got to anchor it, or else it's not going to be as complex as you want. Right. So now we get into, there's like this herby quality to it, and a bit of a graphite minerality to it as well, to keep it anchored down there and not let it go too far.
Yeah. If I was drinking this blind, I would have placed it in California, not in South Africa. Is that like, is it?
No, I totally get it. Okay. Because when we're drinking Napa Cabs, you get that really dark fruit, you get that cedar, and then you get that purpley lavender kind of thing, kind of quality to it as well. So that makes total sense.
Okay.
It reminds me partially
Mhm.
of a Napa cab as well.
Oh, okay.
And we're dominantly cab, so
Right.
I think that's a
You said
beautiful
40%
thing to say.
cab.
Mhm.
Mhm. Okay.
Right.
Oh, okay. And then we say the hoisin was a great call. We got out our jar to check. I saw Robin smelling something.
Nice.
Yeah. And then Linda says she's having crackers with rosemary and sage. And she feels like it pairs well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Knowing it's a cab blend, I would have guessed Cab Franc.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Cab Franc's jumping up in there.
There's
That's the
Cab Franc in there
floral.
too.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I'm when I mentioned it, so it's Cab Syrah,
Mhm.
Cab Franc, Merlot, Petit Verdot.
Yeah.
All right. So the Syrah is
Mhm.
going to get you some of this color, which is intense,
Mhm.
some of the tannin along with the Cab. But the Cab Franc, you're getting floral qualities.
Yeah.
The Merlot, you're getting plum qualities, which we
Okay.
discussed the plum.
Right.
And Petit Verdot gives it a little extra oomph and fruitiness
Mhm.
as well. So, and then the Cab, you're going to get more of that cedar from the Cab, and the minerality, the graphite, probably Cab. But Cab Franc, the herbiness and the floral Cab Franc, that's kind of its specialty. And then you see why. I mean, this is a Bordeaux blend mostly, other than the Syrah traditionally. Why Bordeaux producers are so into the blending, so you can get all of these things.
Sure.
Because it's a big wine,
Mhm.
but it's not one note. It's big, and there's a ton going on.
Yeah.
We're having a long discussion, longer than normal, on what we're smelling
Oh,
and
sure.
tasting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that is the point of a Bordeaux-style blend.
And then Jerry said he's pairing his with salted caramels.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, as it's here, there's a bit more of that Cab Franc coming out, more herbs coming as it's opening.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Should I?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about where this guy is from. Because obviously it has a lot going on. So, first, let's go to the label, right? Label review. All right, Glenelly, Stellenbosch, awesome logo.
I was just looking at him riding the rhino. That's pretty
So
cool.
it's a woman holding a wine glass,
Okay.
riding a rhino, which is a little harder to see on the thing, but you can. When it's
Well, and it's also like 2 feet away from me, but yeah. Well, it's just that like it's not in, okay. It's small.
Yeah, it's small.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. So estate reserve. So this is an estate grown wine. They have complete control over it, and they're
That's nice.
venting it.
Yeah.
Reserve. Well, reserve doesn't always have a meaning. We've talked about that.
Okay. So wait, can I jump in a moment?
Mhm.
Okay. So reserve doesn't always have a meaning, but if I'm looking at it and it's 2014 and it's 2022, I'm thinking either it has sat on the shelf for a very long time,
Right.
or if I know that it just arrived, it's already 8 years. They did hold it back for a while.
Exactly. They held
Okay.
it back for quality. Right.
Okay.
So you're exactly right. That's
Okay.
exactly what that means. I'm just saying. So on the neck, we do have the integrity and sustainability certified. So it's part of how they work. They do minimal. They minimally work on the grapes. They do not add anything to this. They use native yeast, very natural out in the field. And so that is that certification,
Okay.
which largely comes from, they're working on this internationally, but also it's important and supported in South Africa.
Okay.
All right.
Linda has her hand raised.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I had a question about that. I did notice that label. And so I feel like we've talked about sustainability before, so I wasn't sure if that particular sticker or label was internationally recognized, or if it's just something that South Africa does, or maybe the producer does.
There are several, it's a good question, and there are several of them out there. I don't know if this one is South African only or international. I don't know.
Okay.
There are several because France has their own, South America has their own, but South America usually uses an international, but they're not always the same international. That is one of the weaknesses of the certifications, is because they mean different things depending on which group is doing it. But if nothing else, you can look at that and say to yourself, here's somebody who's trying and working along the way. and probably doing a lot.
Yeah.
In which case, like these guys are doing a whole lot with the way that they grow the grapes. Now not necessarily organic, but certainly very sustainably and keeping the land healthy and working with energy conservation, water conservation.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Also on here, so it gives the breakdown of the grapes, which is kind of nice. So if you're a cab lover, you can look at that. Oh, by the way, can you see this? The staining on the bottle. I don't know if we'll be able to show you guys, but like turn it.
Yeah.
So because it's been stored on its side properly for a long time.
Let me see if I can. Your bottles might have it too.
And you can see how intense, like it's 2014, so some of the color has fallen out and stained the bottle.
But yeah.
Yeah. That's a sign of age, right? And so it's had some time in the bottle. As reds age, they lighten in color because the color falls out of solution.
Yeah, I'm looking at this.
And you look at this, you're like, yeah, are you kidding me? I can't see through this at all. It looks pitch black in the middle. So that's an intense wine. They're able to get intense ripeness, but with a lot of character. We'll talk about why. All right.
Okay.
So then they give you a nice bit of information about the winery, which we're going to cover a lot of this. We won't cover all this right now. The alcohol content. It's from Stellenbosch, which is the most prestigious region for wine growing in South Africa.
Says the state wine again there too.
Right. There you go.
In case you missed it on the front.
So that would all in all tell me like, all right, there's a lot to look forward to in this bottle here. Somebody's standing right behind their product for sure. It's not just, here's a red. We're calling it some pithy name. It's Puppy Dog Red Blend from South Africa in general. Like that would be a very different expectation.
Sure.
And I would expect a very different price point. So,
okay.
Next one, please.
And then we also have another comment about a pairing.
Okay.
When you're ready for that. I don't know if you want to do. Oh, and then Paul has a question.
All right, Paul, go ahead and jump in. We're about to switch subjects.
Yeah, that's how it works. I was trying to follow up Linda's comment about the certification. That there's so many certifications, or there's a number of certifications. There's no one certification that certifies all wines. Universal. There's no universal call to it, but that's a good and a bad thing. Like the wine community doesn't want a universal thing because then they can define it for themselves.
Yeah, it does come down to a lot of there's some significant differences in opinion about how to grow wine, what does make something sustainable, how far do you need to go, what's realistic and what's too far. And so I think it ends up creating a natural split where people say, you know what, no, they're ridiculous, but I'm going to go with these guys. And a lot of times it also comes from within your own country. They'll say, hey, look, I'm French. This is the French group that works in it. I agree with them. I have no interest in what the United States thinks of what our practices are, and that could, I guarantee you that's part of it.
France for that.
Right.
No, yeah, it probably is. Yeah, everybody thinks however they're doing it is the best.
Right. The Spanish may say, look, I don't care what you're doing in Mendoza.
Right.
This is how we're doing it here.
Sure.
So yes.
So let's cover one of these first two. So also they asked Sherry how the pairing was. They did, as in Chris and Robin, did paired theirs with lamb marguez. Marguez? I don't know how to pronounce that. And white beans.
Merguez?
What is it?
Merguez?
I think it's Merguez. I also don't really know.
I'm starting to question it now.
It looks very fancy. So white beans with pistachio, honey,
Oh, nice.
harissa, and it was good, but the food took away from the spiciness of the wine, made it taste more earthy.
Huh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. We don't normally hear that. Like
Right.
normally we hear.
Normally it's a synergy that elevates.
If you're pairing it with something that is supposed to be paired with it, we hear,
Right. I mean, I'm hearing that and I'm thinking that should be great.
Right. But evidently, no. So
But, and as the wine opens up though, I mean, there's more of the mineralities coming out, you know, there's more herby and earthy minerality as well. That's good. Kind of a tobacco quality coming out with the herb is evolving. It's very nice. So Bordeaux blend. So this week we have, again, we're back to Bordeaux blends, Cab dominant. And so we're on Cab, Syrah, Cab Franc, Merlot, Petit Verdot. Which one of these is not like the others? Syrah, right? So Syrah was not, and actually, I want to see the slides on here. So Syrah is the one where you're like, okay, that is not currently part of Bordeaux. Syrah is not part of a Bordeaux blend. So you could say it's a Bordeaux blend except. But there was a time when Syrah was part of Bordeaux blends.
Really?
In the 17 and 1800s, they were bringing in Syrah to beef up the backbone, the tannin, and the, you know, and the body on Bordeaux wines. Now, it was never grown there, which is the reason that ended was when they became really strict about the different regions within France and how they were going to make wine. They put an end to that, and that's why that ended. And because Syrah, it would not grow well. It's too cool. It's just not the right environment in Bordeaux.
So they made a lot of those rules in the 1700s.
1800s,
Okay.
that's when it really started coming around. 1725, it got rolling,
Okay.
and they really got teeth over time.
Okay.
And it got to the point where everyone said, okay, uncle, I'll live up to what you're saying. You know?
Okay.
So I would guess that it probably came down to they were gaining popularity with what they were creating with their rules. And it was
Okay.
probably more of, I can make more money.
Oh,
if
sure.
I, you know,
Yeah, of course it was that.
Hey, fair enough on that. That's the point, right? So, so we have these guys. So we have Cab Franc is the parent grape of Cabernet Sauvignon and also Merlot, right? So we've got Cab Franc, Merlot all in here, and Petit Verdot. Carmenere is the only one that's out instead of Carmenere, Syrah.
Okay.
Next slide, please. This is a left bank style Bordeaux because left bank, it's a river running through Bordeaux, right? Left bank is Cab dominant, right bank is Merlot dominant. So we're dealing with a left bank style in what they were doing, and happens to be the origin of the winemaker was from that. So, which makes total sense as you will go down to South Africa, in which we'll go into a lot of detail.
She's from the left bank of Bordeaux.
Yes.
Okay.
Historically, yeah, her family from there. So,
all right.
Go to the next one. So flavors we could expect: black currant, that's really black, dark grape, black cherry, graphite, chocolate, dried herbs. I know we have Syrah thrown in here, but I honestly don't see that it's really run off the page of what you would expect from a beautiful Bordeaux blend.
And the one thing that we really didn't mention at all prior to this slide is chocolate.
I agree. Yeah. And I feel like I'm just starting to get more of it now. It's still more, I think it's behind the graphite.
Okay.
To me, I'm getting more of that in the herbs. But I wouldn't say no to some baker's chocolate being on the nose.
Yeah, and I like that you finished that with on the nose, because I was getting it a little bit on the nose, but I'm not getting it on the palate for me yet.
I could go there about the same amount.
I mean, you're probably, I know that you are tasting more than I am. So
Well,
if you taste it and I don't,
I could go.
I'm not upset.
It's kind of toward the finish.
Okay.
So you get kind of an herb and you get a little bit of like a baker's chocolate running out to the toasty, lengthy finish.
Okay.
That's where I would go with it. Like really swirl it around your tongue. Remember, I always say this, chew your wine at least a couple of times. Feel free to sip normally whenever you want, but chew it at least a couple of times to really give it a chance to express itself. So, all right, let's go on to the next one. All right, grape anatomy. What we're dealing here is, these are all black skinned grapes with white flesh.
So different from last week.
Different from last week, right? These are along with the 99% of wine grapes
Yeah,
that
these
are all
are the traditional.
they're white fleshed.
Mhm.
And we're dealing with a lot of intensity from the skins and from the intermediate zone in there, from the peripheral zone rather. Get to the intermediate zone. We're going with, medium acidity, not crazy tartness. I would say Cab Franc's going to give you a little bit more, which probably elevates this and keeps it from getting too heavy, because a really warm growth Syrah can get really weighty. But this is not that.
So yeah, Linda said hers has been open for a little over an hour. She doesn't smell the chocolate, but she feels like it pairs well with chocolate.
That works. Yeah.
And
Well, it's funny. It's like, sometimes I go back in now and I'm like, okay, maybe a little bit more rosemary this time. It's there's a lot coming out of it.
would you like them to advance?
Thank you. All right. So where in the world are we? Where in the world? We're way down here in the world. South African growing region is at the northern part of the growing latitude in the southern hemisphere. And we're about here. So let's zoom in here. So South Africa and Stellenbosch and areas around it. This is the wine growing region right here. Stellenbosch right here, which has several mountain ranges, is the main growing area.
I just noticed that they have a Worcester.
They do. There's a Worcester,
They
South
probably
Africa.
don't pronounce it the same way that
I don't know.
we do.
I would, maybe. I wouldn't be shocked if it was. I was born in Worcester, Mass.
Yeah. That's what it jumped out at me.
Right. All right. So here are the different wine regions down here, and here's Stellenbosch right there.
So
And
it's all along there because of the water?
because of the temperature, the water helps. Yeah, they're close to the water, so they get
Mhm.
breezes because it's so hot.
That's
It's
right.
too hot
Mhm.
in general. It's hot. It's too hot.
Yeah.
So you've got to deal with the heat
Yeah.
and the humidity that's going to pop up down. It's Africa.
Mhm.
It's a jungle where there's a bunch of it. It's hot and humid, but not there. There you have enough of that cold ocean to make it a combination of it is hot, but it cools off quickly in the evening. As soon as the peak of the sun is off, that ocean breeze cools it down very quickly, and that's what allows them to manageably ripen over time. Because if they ripen too quickly, they're going to have no character.
Sure.
And you're just going to have flabby, fruity grapes.
Mhm.
They may be fun to eat, but not fun to drink.
Okay.
So we are here at the slope of the Simmonsburg Mountains. All right. So this is within Stellenbosch. You have the Stellenbosch range here. We are actually on the eastern slope. This is actually where Glenelly is right there.
Oh. Like the foothills in the mountains.
And then there's what it looks like.
It's gorgeous.
Right. So Stellenbosch, South Africa, has the oldest growing soils in the world. You know how old they are?
He just covered it up so I couldn't cheat.
I'll say it, because there's too many numbers that could go out there, right? 600 million years ago is when they were exposed from the seabed. When the water receded, this was among the first earth exposed after the flooding.
Wow.
So so when Pangea came out, 600 million year old earth is what they're working with. The eastern side of Stellenbosch, which is where this wine comes from, includes high granite content in the soil, which is great for red growing grapes. The western side of Stellenbosch, it has sandstone broken up. And so that's great for white growing grapes. Excuse me, everybody. All right. Thank you. Hot and dry growing season during the summer, wet and cool during the winter, where the vines can kind of replenish, put the roots deep and get ready for the next growing season. The afternoons cool up, I mentioned quickly because of the breeze from the ocean.
Mhm.
So it's able to make it in there. So as soon as the sun gives up a little bit of, push, then the breeze comes in. It cools it off and gives them nice cool nights. The result is a long growing season. It's dry during that time of year. It's only cooled when they're not growing grapes, which is important. So they can ripen fully, but slowly, which lets them have character. So you have what is obviously a very ripe grape when you're
Yes.
looking at the color and the extraction that we're getting. But we've been talking about a million different flavors, right?
Yeah.
So it definitely develops character.
Mhm. Linda said so much to unpack from Pangea and wine.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have 2 questions. So do we pick Linda or Paul first?
Oh,
He said her. Okay, she gets to go first.
Aw, I love you too. So I'm curious, you were talking about, the cooling and everything. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, our climate, so our climate here is in Florida can be, it changes or it fluctuates. So to what extent does the cooling contribute to what we are tasting and everything, because you keep talking about the cooling in the evenings, and so that assists, and also the growing, so what would, in this climate, so this is South Africa, so I'm trying to keep the hemisphere in mind. So what would the growing season be there in terms of grapes?
all right.
for
So
this?
the cooling is going to keep them. So because they cool off every evening, they stop ripening. So they start up every morning, the heat starts ramping up, and they get a good long middle of the day where they are ripening and ripening. And then as soon as the intensity comes off the sun, the cool breeze rushes in and everything stops and it relaxes. And so that way you don't get a rushed ripening, and you're going to get, say, 3 months, 3 to 4 months. If I don't believe I got that right. 3 to 4 months of ripening. You don't want 6 weeks to 2 months of ripening, because you can build much more character in the grape. So I think that covers the first one. What was the second one? Was
She said with the southern hemisphere, so the
Mhm.
southern hemisphere, what's their growing time? Like, when are they growing? When are they harvesting?
okay. Oh, and part of it too is when you look at it, they're at the very bottom of the earth.
Right.
So their ocean is cold.
Yeah.
That is a cold ocean, and that is absolutely vital because of how hot the temperature is there. And so that's what we don't have around Florida. Around Florida, we have warm water around a warm environment. Otherwise, we could be like that,
Okay.
right? But we don't have, it's relatively shallow in the
Well,
Caribbean.
that's what I was going to say. I think they have much deeper waters too,
Right.
close off the coast. Only be basing that on great whites.
Right. Yeah. No, theirs is much deeper and much colder, which brings that breeze, which allows it to actually cool that far inland,
Okay.
which we don't get that in Florida.
Mhm.
And then of course their season is going to run, it's going to be much like ours, except it's going to be flip-flop. So
Right.
we're going to deal with, for them, it's November through April.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Jerry said that the offshore water is very cold, but the warmest temperatures are in December and January. Yeah. So
Makes total sense.
Mhm.
That's our July and August.
yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right. Pablo.
Awesome. Hey, Paul Fox in Picayune, Mississippi. Thank you for taking my call. I'm gonna ask this.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Yeah, long time listener, first time call. We've discussed this before about the way that the grapes grow, and I'm looking at this picture. Those are not vines. It doesn't look like they're up on the lines and things like that.
Oh, right. So they're not trellising them. Mhm.
They're not trellising them. So is that determined by where they're growing them or by the type of grape? And forgive me if somebody else has already asked this question.
No.
Or just by who is growing it. Like,
So
I like trellises. I don't like trellises.
here's the question. Is it determined by the location,
Mhm.
the grape, or the winemaker, or the farmer?
You're gonna just say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
See, isn't that annoying when he does
Yeah.
that?
I knew this. You saw me leading it up. She knew where I was
knew
going with
where
it.
it was going.
And I'm sorry, but that is the truth. All
Okay.
right. That is the truth. It's a little of A, B, and C.
Okay.
It's going to depend on, because they'll work it on the Canary Islands, for example. They'll have these mounds because they're trying to protect the grapes inside because there's so much wind.
Okay.
They actually have to have a protection of the thing. So that is dictated largely by the location, right? But then you also have a similar situation in Jumilla in Spain, and where they have kind of these mounds out in the middle of the desert, and they're protecting the grapes because the sun is so intense. And then you'll go into Germany, where they're definitely trellising because they've got to expose the leaves and the grapes to every bit of sun they can get because they have less intense sun and they have cooler temperatures and they need to get to ripe.
Okay.
I mean, they have such an issue with getting to ripe. Traditionally, things may be changing, but that they have to use it. That's why they grow along the Mosel River and other rivers, because they need the sun to be shining on, and then it bounces off the river.
Excuse me. Yeah, you
Both
passed
of
your
us, I know.
sneeze to me.
So the sun will shine on the grapes themselves, and they also need it to bounce off the river and reflect back up in order to get to ripeness, because they have so much trouble getting to ripeness. So when you trellis and spread it out and not allow a canopy versus that is largely a combination of location and grape varietal.
Okay.
But then partially, when you're in some areas, you can decide how far you want to go with it. You're going to make adjustments as a winemaker, as a wine grower, a grape grower.
So maybe with this one, protecting the grapes from the sun some here, we're not trellising them, we're not spreading them out. We don't need them to be exposed to the sun more because they get plenty of heat.
Right, that could entirely be. This could also be, though it doesn't seem to be, young plantings that are just getting up and going.
Oh, okay.
That they haven't been trellised yet. See, because they're not that far up.
Right.
It could be young plantings. It could literally be also that's how they're growing them, because they don't need to worry about exposure because they're getting plenty of sun.
Okay. And we have a question about that. Since it's a staked grape, can it be mechanically harvested, or does it have to be by hand?
I honestly can't answer that question.
Okay.
I don't know. These are hand harvested. I will tell you that.
Okay.
That much I know.
So we know these, and this is specifically the winery.
This is not.
This is not. This is the region.
But this is the region, and it is
Okay.
specifically within Stellenbosch. This is the Simmonsburg Mountain region. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Advance.
Yes, please. All right. So we are here at the Glenelly, and we see, by the way, you see a very similar background on there with the, you know, with the mountains. So we are there. See, if you look here, I can't tell for sure, but these look terraced to me.
I can't tell.
Yeah. It's hard to say. Anyway, and we might see more. We actually have videos. These guys have been really nice about providing a bunch of them.
Jeff has 3 videos.
I have 3 videos. I also have an amazing story, and I will preface the story about the owner with this is how it was told to me. If there are inaccuracies, as it turns out, because this is being recorded and put it out there,
Right.
this is as it was told to me. Pretty sure it's right. All right.
Okay.
Because that was the direct wine rep for the importer.
Oh, it should be.
Right. So it should be right.
Okay.
All right. So Glenelly Winery is on the eastern slopes of the Simmonsburg Mountains within Stellenbosch. This is the cooler section. So it is the slowest ripening area in there. So once again, like we talked about, slower ripening, more time to gain character. I don't think anyone would argue.
Oh,
Right.
no, absolutely.
It was a fruit orchard for 90 years before it was purchased in 2003. We have a lot of interesting names coming up. All right.
Okay. Do
A
your best.
lot of French by May de Lanquesson. Lanquesson. I think it's Lanquesson. All right. Lanquesson. But her name, first name is May, M-A-Y. So she purchased it at 78 years old. It's like, well, how
Good
long was
for
she in
her.
there, right? So this was after selling her traditional family estate in Bordeaux. So she was already a winemaker
Right.
in Bordeaux. And that was Chateau Pichon Longueville Comtesse de Lalande.
There you go.
All right, so Bordeaux old family estate
Yes.
in that she sold before purchasing Glenelly.
Mhm.
There's so much more to the story.
Okay.
All right, so May, let's call her that,
Do you
and
want me
please
to
forgive
take
me.
it off of, since you're telling the story, off of the share?
Oh, sure, why not?
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Because yeah, this is the story, so it's just putting in visuals the whole time would have been too much. So May was part of a group of families that owned the estate, the family estate in Bordeaux. And the way that vineyards, vineyards within France, estates in France are passed down. There were so many arguments at one point about giving more percentages to one child over the other. The country finally said, enough. When you die, it goes to your spouse. When that person dies, it is split equally. We do not care between all of your children every time. But that happens generation to generation. So now you have each of these three. So say there are three kids.
Yeah.
It's now split in thirds.
Mm-hmm.
They all had kids.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's 20 owners.
Yeah.
Now, so anyway, this estate, Lalande, all right, was part of that. It causes problems because then you end up with 150 owners and no one cares.
Right.
Right. And it becomes like a condominium that everyone owns and no one has time to go to.
Yeah.
And no one wants to put money in to keep it going. And so what I was told was they lost their longtime winemaker. And even he was kind of starting to phone it in. And they used to be really well known and well rated and had high esteem. And it had gone down and down into mediocre. Right. And then it got to where no one was making the wine and everyone looked around and said, what do we do? Just sell it? And May said, she was, by the way, a doctor, a medical doctor, 70 years old. And she said, you know what? You guys are all weenies. I'm going to go get a degree in enology and I will take over and get it done. And that's what she did. 70 years old, went back to school, took over the winemaking operations, brought it back up, got them gaining all their renown back, multiple awards, and made it a really highly, a great place. But don't forget, so here's all her work going in. All the proceeds are being split by all the family. They're not going to her. So during this time, while she's learning all this, she's visited South Africa and she sees that it's amazing and she could do wonderful work down there. So she says, you know what I'm going to do? She goes up there. She's the one that's brought all the value back to the property. She says, it's going up for sale, everybody. And they all say, fine, you're the one who's really doing the work. We'll all sell it. So they sell it well.
Mm-hmm.
And then she takes her proceeds and has 100% control of Glenelly.
Good for her.
And that was how, at 78 years old, she went down there and bought Glenelly and started her own thing that she didn't have to share.
See, Jerry has a few more years. He's going to go buy a vineyard, and then we'll all go and yep.
That's right. We're all going to the Mosel.
Exactly.
But the way things are warming up, we're going to be growing Cabernet Sauvignon in the Mosel.
Whatever works, buddy.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So, by the way, the label. So the woman holding a glass of wine, riding a rhinoceros, it actually is showing her wine style.
Okay.
Power meets elegance.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's pretty fantastic. I love the wine. I love the story. Love everything.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So her winemaker is an Irishman.
Really?
Yes. And by the way, the names don't stop for me. Do you see this?
It's all your heritage. So there you go, dude.
Luke O'Quinagan.
Is that really how you pronounce that? Because Irish is hard sometimes. And it looks like Quinagan, but maybe it's not.
I'm going to tell you, that's how Luke's name's being pronounced tonight.
All right.
And you know what? I'm going to tell you.
Irish is.
I'm doing my best,
They
buddy.
have the same letters. They don't make the same sounds.
They don't always. Celtic could be different. But it looks like Luke O'Quinagan.
Okay. It does appear to be.
So he's the winemaker he's worked at some incredibly prestigious. I mean, she reeled in an amazing winemaker.
Mhm.
She oversees everything and it is her vision,
Mhm.
but he's doing the day-to-day work, and they
Right.
obviously work incredibly well together.
Obviously.
So, and then obviously Luke's putting a stamp on this. I mean, he
Mhm.
deserves a shout out, which is why I mentioned
Yeah.
it. So he's worked at wineries all around the world, some incredible things. But one thing that might stand out for some of us here is a cult Napa Valley winery called Screaming Eagle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's
So he was the winemaker there, or one of them? Or?
he was one of the winemakers
Okay.
there. And now this is his work here. And I just think he's doing amazing work.
So this was started in 2003. you said?
Yep. 2008 was their first vintage.
Okay.
Because they literally had to start the plantings.
So 2008 was their first vintage, and
Yeah.
here they are 6 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Wow.
it's fairly new, and I
Mhm.
think there's going to be incredible things coming from this
Yeah.
winery.
Yeah.
So, and May also has a passion for collecting glass art, and she has one of the largest private collections in the world. We have a video on that as well.
That sounds
One of the
awesome.
largest, private collections in the world. So, pretty cool
Would
stuff.
you like for me to share a video?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. Before we do that, we do have one question. Linda asked, do you know whether these varietals are fermented together or separately and then blended? Because I know it happens. It depends on.
It's a very good question, and it is done differently depending.
Okay. So we don't know for this one? Or?
I didn't see anything indicating. I would guess
Mhm.
fermented separately and then custom blended by the winemakers.
Okay. You have a lot more control over it that way.
Right.
Because you already know how each of them tastes.
Exactly.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
Mhm.
Co-fermented is, to my experience, for more of the fine wines,
Mhm.
less common.
Okay. Because it's riskier.
It is. You're
Yeah.
just throwing it all in there. Like maybe it wasn't a particularly good year for your Cab Franc and you needed to pull back.
Mhm.
And yet now it's in there because if you're thinking it's always 15% Cab Franc, so.
Okay. Right.
So my guess, and I think it's a good one, is separately fermented and then barrel blends, barrel tasted and then blended.
Okay. I'm guessing we have a video next.
Yep.
All right.
Here we go.
Close to the center of Stellenbosch and a short drive from Cape Town, our tasting room offers visitors an elegant yet friendly welcome to Glenelly.
See how many words they have.
Overlooking our vineyards, visitors can enjoy cheese platters and taste our award-winning wines from our wine range, including the Glass Collection, the Estate Reserve, and our flagship Lady May.
Okay, you said we have two more?
Yep. So that was the tasting room. We're gonna go
Hold
here we
on.
go.
He puts videos in differently than I do.
One more time.
Wait, this looks like a different one. It's YouTube though. It's going to a different thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Still, it doesn't want to let me get out of it. There you go.
Okay.
Is this the next one or did I go too
No,
far?
I think it's right. Yeah.
Okay.
I just think they can say it better than me a long time.
That's nice.
So. Yeah. Cape Plastics is the importer.
Okay.
So my dream is to make a great South African wine with a French touch. The French touch must be there, but this South African grapes also, with their quality, their personality, their specificity, must be there. My belief is I must respect the style of the wines of this country. French touch is perhaps more in the experience that I have from Bordeaux to look for very balanced wines between elegance and complexity. I give a lot of attention to the quality of the tannins. They must be big so that we can age our wines as we do in Bordeaux for 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
That's interesting.
So what is lovely is to have all the qualities that we've been working on in Bordeaux for 50, 100 years, and to be sure that the wines we make here follow the same philosophy. So finesse, elegance, long living. Wine that when you pour in your glass, you are willing to quickly, not a second glass, another, a third glass. And you can see it. If a bottle of wine is very quickly empty, it means people have a lot of pleasure in having it.
That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Okay. And then you said there's one more.
And this is the one, this is her glass collection.
Okay.
I thought it was kind of fun to just show it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of her winery.
Maid Alongsong has had a lifelong passion for rare and contemporary glass. At Glenelly, you will find one of the largest privately owned collections in the world. Ranging from the 1st and 2nd century to modern classics, including pieces by Salvador Dali and Lino Tagliapietro. Her collection is a unique journey through the history of glassmaking.
That's cool.
Well, I'm glad you think it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping everyone would.
Okay,
So we
so
have
wait, before we do the ratings, we have a chat. Let's see. Oh, Linda had to go.
Okay,
Okay.
awesome.
All right.
All
Oops.
right.
There we go.
So ratings on this guy, we have double 90s as an
Mhm.
outstanding wine into the entry level of that level of
Mhm.
category. As I talked about, 85 to 89, as a lot of people would inappropriately say that that's not a good rating. It is a very good rating. It's literally very good.
Yes.
And very good, nothing wrong with that. 80 to 84, good solid wine. Hey, look, I'm glad I drank that. Nothing wrong with that wine. Like I say, outstanding wine, superior in character, especially if you take in what it is, where it's from, that kind of a thing. And 95 and above, it's a classic. Wow, I want this to be at my 50th birthday, something like that. Yeah.
You're past that now. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It's over for you.
It's every day of my 50th year.
Yeah, every day.
This is my 51st
Every
year.
day you
Though.
want a 95 to 100. Okay.
That's what I do.
Okay.
All right,
I'm going to
so-
stop the share a moment.
Right.
So we have Chris says 93. Love it. So I'm not sure if that's just Jerry because he's the only one in frame. 92, 93. Okay.
Yeah.
92, 93. Wonderful. Rachel and David. Okay. So 92 and 93. So Rachel
Nice.
92, David 93.
Mhm.
Consuelo 91.
Mhm.
92 from both Brenda and Linda.
Okay.
Just waiting for a few more. Sherry, John, and Terry, we have a range of 90 to 92.
Right. Every single one is outstanding and above
Mhm.
so far.
Yep.
Your
I think
thoughts?
we're just waiting for Paul. I didn't know if he was going to put something in or not.
Come on, Paul.
90s.
Okay.
90s.
90s. All right. We're calling him a 98 and he's an outlier.
Yeah, exactly. No, I would do 93. I love it.
Right. Honestly, and I would jump in on this one and say that double 90 underrepresents the quality of this wine.
I was actually, after we had it and you mentioned it again, because I'd forgotten what it was.
Right.
I'm actually really surprised about
Right.
that.
Does that kind of like throw it in? You're like, what? Wait a minute here, fellas.
Yeah. And we all rated it higher. And I feel like after 2 years of doing this, almost 2 years of doing this,
Right.
That we're pretty discerning as a group.
Right. No, I agree. I love the groups thing.
So
really
I
love-
think 1 week you should don't tell people the ratings at the beginning. Let them all say what they think it is and then reveal at the end.
Okay.
Yes. And yes, Brenda and Linda are agreeing with me.
Here's the
so.
hard part.
Okay.
We don't only sell these wines to the group.
Mhm.
We do an email.
Oh, okay.
And we try to entice people in and people.
Okay, so when we do the blind
tasting.
tasting, because we're doing that.
Oh yeah,
right?
we're gonna do the blind tasting.
Okay, so then have
you
people
guys-
write down the ratings with it as well.
Yeah, you guys are all
like
front
what they
line on the
think it
blind
is, and then-
tasting.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and you'll do ratings on it. It'll be completely blind. Yeah, we'll get into the whole blind tasting thing
Okay.
later on.
Yeah,
instead of
because of our
recording it,
social
but-
media, then all right.
But
okay.
anyway, so yeah, I'm really glad. I really felt like you guys would love this. This is why I fought so hard to get this wine in here, because I love this wine. I think it's
Yeah.
absolutely
fantastic.
fantastic. And I think it's in crazy good value.
Definitely worth the wait. Somebody said that earlier. I
Oh, nice.
agree. Yeah, definitely worth the wait.
Good.
Mhm.
That makes me happy.
Yep.
All right. Awesome.
So, and then Jerry also said next year will be the first anniversary of your 50th birthday. Yep, in November we get to the first anniversary.
Good call. Good call. I like it. You're going to lead me right
Are we
there.
just going to do that each year? And it's Jeff's.
It's the
you
5th
know.
anniversary of his 50th birthday.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
All right.
share.
Yes, please.
All right.
All right. So we covered that. That was awesome. It makes me happy that everyone liked it like I did.
Mhm.
So, all right. He's next. Let's thank some sources. Wine Folly, always, 750.com, Wikipedia, Stellenbosch Cabernet Collective had one of the great maps I needed for Stellenbosch. Glenelly Estate, of course, which makes total sense. And the Elite Traveler had the photo of the region, the Stellenbosch with the mountains. So,
Okay.
all right. So next week is, we're going to be drinking on Fat Tuesday. I know Paul will not be there. But I kind of started something last year, which was sparkling on Fat Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we're going to stick with that. It kind of made sense to me.
Mhm.
So as we ring in Lent, we are going to be
Okay.
drinking the Reventos de Nit. It's a Blanc de Noir, sparkling wine from Penende, Spain. Now, most of the time from Spain, if it's sparkling, say cava,
Mhm.
right? It's cava.
Right.
Why is this not being called cava?
I was wondering that.
Oh, we're going to find out next week.
Okay.
Because it's a choice.
Okay.
All right. Ratings, Robert Parker, 92. Food pairings, I got kind of cool on this one. I thought I did well. Iberico ham wrapped white asparagus.
Oh yeah.
I expect everyone to find those ingredients.
I mean,
You can get them here in town. And tempura dishes, by the way, fried dishes works really well with those.
okay.
It would be really good with like some tempura and sushi would be really good.
Okay. And what about like fried grouper and shrimp from Northwest?
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
That would work very well.
Okay.
And oysters on the half shell. That would be really good.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, Paul's very happy about the oysters.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. It would be great with oysters.
Okay.
So,
All right. So you're making us excited about a white because it's sparkling. So we'll see.
it's a Blanc de Noir.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and
And-
Reventos is a really cool group.
Nobody
so
give
this is
up
gonna be-
wine for Lent. I'm giving up sodas for Lent.
Right.
Yeah, just skydiving. Give up skydiving for Lent. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's what Jerry said to me yesterday.
You have to give up something that's actually a sacrifice, Jerry.
Yeah.
Scares the hell out of the dog, so I don't do it with it.
Yes, I realized I just started a thing that I need to not continue because
What?
I've been doing the David Letterman today.
Or like, yeah,
And I'm just going to take this pen and
Oh,
throw it at
yeah,
the
just
thing.
throw it to those.
I need pencils.
See,
so.
Chris and Robin don't know who David Letterman is, so.
How dare you?
Robin remembers when her parents used to send her to bed. David Letterman's on. It's too late. It's past your bedtime. Go to bed. Why are you up?
He was a comedian in the late 21st century.
Yeah. There you go. Actually, I had a friend that said like one of her kids started a paper with in the late 19th century or in the late 20th century. No, sorry. In the late 1900s was what she started. And she's like, oh my God, F.
Yeah, right. Late 1900s.
Late 1900s.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Okay.
All right. Let's have a toast.
We'll wrap up.
We'll wrap up. We can keep talking after we stop recording and we can get.
Did actually remember to
ridiculous
hit
as that.
record, even though we started this 3 times.
You know what?
So,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, everyone.